All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last Nourish to Flourish webinar of 2025. I can't believe we're at the end of this year. If this is your first time joining us, we're so glad to have you. And if you attended in the past, welcome back. My name is Gina Ringelstein, and I'm one of the clinical dietitians with the Stanford Lifestyle and Weight Management Clinic. I'll be your moderator for today's session. Just a few housekeeping details before we get started. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the Stanford Health Library website under Lifestyle and Weight Management Recorded Lectures, along with the PowerPoint slides. You'll also receive an email with a link to the recording once it's available, so stay on the lookout for that. If you have questions during the webinar today, please add them to the Q&A chat box located at the bottom of your screen. We'll review those during our Q&A portion at the end of our webinar today. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing my colleague, Kelsi Buckley, who is today's presenter. Kelsi Buckley is a registered dietitian and a board-certified specialist in obesity and weight management. As a valued member of the multidisciplinary team at the Stanford Lifestyle and Weight Management Center, Kelsi is passionate about empowering others to achieve their health and wellness goals through personalized, sustainable approaches to nutrition and physical activity. Kelsi believes long-term success comes from adopting practices that feel manageable and enjoyable. She emphasizes finding balance and incorporating all the foods you love into a healthy eating plan, making the journey to better health both realistic and rewarding. Today, Kelsi is bringing all the holiday cheer with festive holiday mocktails, which is perfect timing. We will explore creative, flavorful recipes that minimize added sugar and alcohol so everyone can join in the celebration without sacrificing the holiday spirit. She'll also share tips on navigating added sugars and artificial sweeteners commonly found in mocktail ingredients. And with that, Kelsi is ready to take things away. All to you, Kelsi.
Thank you, Gina. Welcome, everyone. Happy holidays. The holidays are a time to gather and share stories and savor great flavors and fun foods we're trying not to lose sight of our health goals. So in this session, we'll explore some festive mocktails that help bring the holiday cheer while also helping you stay hydrated and mindful of added sugars. So hopefully you'll leave today with some practical tips on sugar literacy, hydration basics, and a few go-to mocktail recipes that you can make at home or bring to a party. So let's get started. Starting off, if you want to scan this QR code or enter the link if you're on your phone already, and just tell me, maybe in a couple of words, what your health goals are for this holiday season. Maybe for some of us, it's finding balance, decreasing sugar, just making it through, um, whatever that looks like for you. Actually, okay. I actually don't, I'm going to read out the word clouds that are here because I didn't put the correct slide in, but I'm seeing a lot of overeating, staying active, having fun, losing weight, maintaining weight, fluids, recipes, avoiding overeating. All right. Great. Yeah, a lot of still having fun. We've got a lot of good goals. I see wait and maintain are the two big words here. And I think that's a great kind of thing to go into around the holidays is, just trying to think about how we can make it through, maintain our weight. Maybe we're not as focused on losing weight throughout this season, but just kind of finding a good balance. All right. Thank you, everybody. So today we're going to talk about mocktails and a lot of other stuff as well, but just to define, what a mocktail is. Some of you, this may be a new word, but a mocktail is a non-alcoholic drink that's designed to feel and taste like a cocktail. It's complex, balanced, and satisfying without or just with a very little amount of alcohol. And many bars and restaurants are now offering zero proof or non-alcoholic cocktails using non-alcoholic spirits, fresh juices, syrups, bitters, herbs, and carbonation to create depth and flavor and texture. And that same interest in artisanal beverages that initially fueled craft cocktails is now fueling this zero proof, innovative, creating sophisticated flavor with unique ingredients and creative presentations. So it's a fun way to kind of feel like we're still having an indulgent drink to celebrate or have fun with family and friends without the added alcohol. I'm sure a lot of us already know, alcohol affects so many different systems in our body and how we feel. It affects sleep, hydration, metabolism, and reducing it or avoiding it generally helps support better sleep, steadier energy, and fewer calories intake for some people. And a lot of people are starting to become more focused on overall health. And I'm guessing that, since you're here today and watching this, you also have an interest in your health. We are tracking our sleep quality. We're feeling out how our energy kind of ebbs and flows throughout the day based on healthy behaviors. We're trying to manage stress, but we still want social experiences. And a lot of trends are starting to move towards drinking less or choosing alcohol-free days, and they're becoming more mainstream in social events, dating, parenting, work functions, everything. So if you're watching calories or trying to manage your blood sugar, just trying to avoid hangovers, trying to sleep better, mocktails let you participate in social rituals without alcohol's downsides. And mocktails make parties and gatherings enjoyable for everyone. Those who are pregnant, people who are avoiding alcohol for religious or medical reasons, those who are driving, those who are in recovery, whatever the reason is, offering non-alcoholic options can help everyone feel included. Not drinking can also reduce calories and money spent while still allowing you to celebrate those moments with a special drink. So, be mindful though, even some non-alcoholic drinks can be high in sugar if they're made with a lot of syrups or sweet mixers. So, if you're watching sugar or calories, you can tune the balance by adding more citrus, herbs, mineral water, or a splash of low sugar syrup as well. And speaking of, let's talk about the scoop on sugar. So, sugars are simple carbohydrates. They come in two main kinds. We've got naturally occurring sugars and added sugars, and both taste sweet, but they aren't the same in how they fit into our diet or our health goals. So, added sugar is any kind of sugar that's added during the processing, cooking, or at the table, adding it to our coffee or tea, or it's already in these products that we're finding on the grocery store shelves. And it can be known by a lot of different names. You may see it listed as sucrose or high fructose corn syrup, honey, maple syrup. All of these are going to be considered added sugar. Added sugar tends to have little to no additional nutrients, and we refer to these as empty calories. So if we are drinking a soda or a sugar sweetened beverage that has calories but no fiber, no protein, no fat, it's just calories from sugar, we're not getting any nutrition from that. So we refer to those as empty calories. Common sources of added sugars are going to be sugar sweetened beverages like soda, fruit drinks, candy, desserts, pastries, sweetened yogurt, flavored coffees, sauces, condiments. A lot of things contain added sugar, even if we may not necessarily taste that sweetness initially. And the health impact of added sugar can lead to a higher risk for weight gain, higher risk of obesity or type 2 diabetes, heart disease, especially when we're drinking calories in the liquid form, because we can pack a lot of sugar into a small quantity and consume it pretty quickly. On the other side, we've got naturally occurring sugars. So naturally occurring sugars are going to be found in fruits, vegetables, milk, plain dairy products, some grains, and it comes with fiber, especially when we're eating, fruits or vegetables in their whole form, vitamins, minerals, protein, maybe some fat. And these foods are generally going to be healthier when we're eating them as the whole food because we have those other nutrients like fiber that are slowing down the sugar absorption and they're helping us feel more satiated and just slowing down how quickly our blood sugar is going up from these sugars. Some examples of this would be sugar that we find in fruit, which we refer to as fructose, sugar in milk, which is lactose. We can find it in yogurt, a lot of fruits, vegetables, a lot of different naturally occurring sugars here. And so, some tips to reduce added sugar would be to choose the whole food more often than like the juice form or a more broken down form. If we have an apple, we're having some sugar from the naturally occurring sugar, but we're also getting a lot of fiber from the apple itself and from the skin of the apple, versus if we were to have apple juice, where we may be having we're removing the fiber, or some brands will even add in extra sugar to the juice and up the content of the sugar even more. So really trying to be mindful of that and sticking to, including these in our diet in a way that's going to support your individual health goals. I also get asked a lot about artificial sweeteners, and most people can use artificial and non-nutritive sweeteners as part of a strategy to reduce added sugars. They provide sweetness with little to no calories, and generally they don't raise blood sugar for most people. However, they're not magic solutions for weight loss, and some people notice taste differences or aftertaste or gastrointestinal disturbances, or they may have personal sensitivities to them. And there's a lot of different kinds of artificial sweeteners. We've got stevia and monk fruit, which are more natural sweeteners, which have low impact or no impact on blood sugar for most people, very low in calorie. They're very sweet, so we don't need to use, a whole lot of it. And they tend to be generally well tolerated. Some people may still exhibit or experience bloating or nausea or taste like a very bitter or kind of licoricey aftertaste for some people. So just be mindful, if you are adding these foods, assess your tolerance level and see if you are, somebody who is sensitive or not to these. We've also got a lot of the more common artificial sweeteners that we hear of a lot, like Equal, Splenda, Sweet and Low. And these also have very little or no impact on blood sugar when we're using it in place of sugar, and are great for people who need strict carbohydrate or calorie control. Again, some people report headaches or digestive symptoms with these products, so assess your tolerance and be mindful of that. And there's also a few studies that suggest that there are possible effects of appetite or increased cravings in certain people. If you're craving something sweet and go for something that has that artificial sweetener, you may be more likely to continue craving those sweet foods even after having that. So just be mindful and use it in moderation. And then finally, we've got sugar alcohols, the xylitol, erythritol, sorbitol, which are combinations of carbohydrate-like compounds that contain alcohol groups that we can use as sugar substitutes. Again, they are very sweet. We only need to use a little bit, and they're generally recognized as safe and well tolerated, but again, can cause gas, bloating, and diarrhea in larger doses. Be mindful of like the sugar-free candies, gummy bears, the hard candies. If we're eating a lot of foods that are sweetened with sugar alcohols, it can definitely lead to some upset stomach problems. So be mindful of that. And again, in moderation. So start with one preferred option and monitor your tolerance, taste, gastrointestinal symptoms, mood, or feelings about hunger. Read labels and be mindful of blends. Some products mix multiple sweeteners or include sugar alcohols with other sugars. And be mindful that sugar-free or zero calorie doesn't automatically mean healthy. Check total calories, check fat and protein in the product, just to get a good idea of what's in those labels. And use them in moderation as an overall strategy to reduce added sugar rather than free reign sweeteners for all foods. All right. And so, a lot of information there, but how are we actually going to put this into use and practice? And it can be hard to figure out, what contains sugar, what has the right amount of sugar. There's a lot of information out there. So be a sugar detective, look at those nutrition labels and be on the lookout for those things that we need to watch out for. If you've never read a nutrition label before, the first place we want to start off with is with that serving size. So take a look at the serving size and see, these are both 8 fluid ounce serving sizes. Is that something that I'm planning to drink that much of? Am I drinking less? Am I drinking more? And kind of use that as we go through the rest of the nutrition label. Today, I'm going to focus on this total carbohydrate portion that I have circled here. And total carbohydrates includes a lot of information just in this small section. So, total carbohydrates is a count of all carbohydrates in the serving of this product. Total carbohydrates may include dietary fiber, if there is any, total sugar, all sugar in the item, natural and added. It should also call out how much added sugar is in there or how much is added during processing or, throughout the creation of that product. And some labels may also list sugar alcohols as a separate line. If they're not listed, they're just included in the total carbohydrate count. And sugar can be known by a lot of different names, like I mentioned before. So let's take a look at these two products here. The first one is just going to be a generic lemonade from the grocery store. And using this just to kind of, let's compare and contrast. Looking at this, we've got 32 grams of total carbohydrates in this product. It says it includes 32 grams of sugar and includes 30 grams of added sugar. Now, if we look at the ingredient label here, ingredient labels are going to be listed by the largest ingredient. And as we go down the list, it's a smaller and smaller amount of that ingredient. So the first ingredient's always the biggest one. And this one is going to be filtered water. The second ingredient is organic sugar. So kind of looking at the nutrition label and this, we can guess that about 30 grams of added, organic sugar is in this product. The next ingredient is going to be organic lemon juice concentrate, and that's likely where we're getting that extra 2 grams that's not listed from. Because it is a lemon juice concentrate, it's going to be a naturally occurring sugar because it's coming from the lemon itself. So we're getting really just a small amount, 2 grams of sugar from the lemon itself. The rest of it's going to be, that regular organic sugar there. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is this percent daily value on the side right here. And that's going to tell us how much of this nutrient or this ingredient is taking up in our recommended daily allowance in a 2,000 calorie per day diet. We use 2,000 calories per day just kind of as a general across the board. Your needs may be higher, they may be lower, they're going to be different. But the dietary guidelines for Americans recommend limiting added sugars to no more than 10% of your daily calorie intake. So that's what this percentage is going to be based off of. Ideally, we're keeping it between 5 or 10% of our daily calorie intake. So if you are eating 2,000 calories a day, that's going to be about 200 calories per day of sugar or 50 grams of sugar per day. Ideally, we're keeping it to like 25 or 50 grams of sugar then, if we're meeting that 5 to 10% of our daily calorie intake from added sugar. So if we look at this percent daily value and we see that this added sugar is 60% of our daily value based on that 2,000 calorie a day diet, that's a lot of sugar. If we're going to choose this lemonade product, maybe we think about what we're eating the rest of the day or drinking the rest of the day and try to go lower on the sugar so we don't, kind of go too far above that. So that's one example. The second example is this fruit juice. And I show this just so we can kind of see maybe a larger ingredient label here. You can see that it's a little bit lower in calories for the same serving, and it has 22 grams of total carbohydrates. In this one, it breaks it down saying we've got 21 grams of total sugar, 17 grams of which are added sugar. So again, we'll take a look at the nutrition label. We see that sugar is, again, the second ingredient, which is probably going to, be about the 17 grams of added sugar. And then we've got a lot of these concentrated juice products. We've got orange juice, grapefruit juice, apple juice, pineapple juice. So some of these, 4 or 5 grams, are probably going to be sugar that's naturally occurring in those juices. Another interesting thing is we also have some stevia leaf extract in this ingredient label. So it's probably adding a little bit more sweetness. This is probably a pretty sweet drink, but it's going to be lower in calories because we've got a mixture of different sugars that it's coming from. So again, maybe we have room for all of these in our diet, but just trying to find the balance and thinking about what we're going to be eating and drinking the rest of the day as well. And then just a couple more that we can look at right now. Oftentimes we think of, fruit juices as being healthy. They're fruit, there's nothing else in them. I've shown this pure tart cherry juice as an example here, where the only ingredient is tart cherry juice, nothing else is added. And it's still got 33 grams of total carbohydrates. It doesn't have any added sugar, doesn't have any fiber either. And that's because we are, juicing the cherries. We're getting rid of the fiber because we're just drinking the juice. If we were to eat the cherries on their own, we'd get some fiber and the sugar from them. But when we're drinking them in juice form, we're just going to have a lot more sugar and a smaller, volume of that beverage. And you'll see that we also have a lot more vitamins and minerals in this option. We've got more calcium, iron, potassium, because it's just a lot more of the fruit itself. So there's benefits, but still being mindful that sugar is sugar, which leads me to this honey. A lot of times I talk to people and they say that they're, not really adding sugar to their coffee or their tea, or a lot of foods, but they'll add honey or maple syrup. And for the most part, sugar is sugar still. Sugar content and calories are going to be similar to each other, whether it's white sugar, honey, agave, nectar. Honey contains a mixture of glucose and fructose, and it may provide trace amounts of micronutrients or antioxidants, but it's still not enough to offset the added sugar if you're trying to limit sugar. So I'm not saying that you need to avoid, cherry juice or honey. It's okay to have these, but just be mindful that it's still going to contribute to your sugar intake. And maybe if we're trying to decrease our sugar to make room for other sweet treats, we rely on more whole foods for sweetness, like ripe fruit, vanilla, cinnamon, adding those to our beverages to get that extra taste there. All right. And so for our first recipe, this I got from a website called the Tea Spot, and I liked it because it is tea and really hydration based here. This is a hibiscus mocked mulled wine, so a really nice holiday staple that incorporates a lot of fun garnish opportunities. We have a lot of room to add whole fruits and different herbs and spices. So in this one, it uses loose leaf hibiscus tea, water, and it also involves sliced apples, cinnamon sticks, cloves. We've got star anise, and lots of optional garnishes. Rosemary, cranberries, fresh squeezed orange juice or slices. And we can drink it warm, we can make it cold, we can serve it in fun mugs. But this is a nice, fun, kind of festive mocktail here. How I adapted it from the website was on the website, it said that we should add 2 tablespoons of sugar. And I think instead of doing that automatically, maybe we make the cocktail or the mocktail first and taste it and just add sweetness as desired. Maybe if you're making a big batch of it for friends or family, we leave the sweetness out of it and offer, the sugar or the honey or fresh squeezed orange juice on the side so that people can kind of add their desired sweetness level to it and make it, a bit more fitting for everybody. All right. And then these will be included so you can go back to them and take these recipes as well. And next up is hydration. So the holidays are a really wonderful time to celebrate, but staying hydrated and trying to balance alcohol or caffeine to feel our best through the celebrations can be really hard. I talk to a lot of people who tell me that it's so hard to drink water in the winter. You're not really feeling up for a cold glass of water as much as you were in the summer. So we need to be even more mindful of staying hydrated and aim for steady water intake throughout the day, especially when we're out at social gatherings or family parties. Aim for steady hydration. Have a reminder, set a phone alarm, have something that's going to, remind you to drink water. Maybe every time we go back to the appetizers or we go for another mocktail or cocktail, we're also getting a glass of water before that. Maybe instead of having that sugary beverage with your meal, you save the mocktail or the cocktail for before or after the meal and drink water during the meal. Um, and remember that alcohol itself can dehydrate you. So make sure you're pacing it and alternating alcoholic beverages with water or a hydrating mocktail. Maybe you bring your water bottle to family functions, or if you're traveling somewhere, make sure you travel with that. And choose these unsweetened hydrating beverages as much as possible throughout the day. So that leads me to our second mocktail recipe of the day. And I like this one because it is hydration based. We can use this to help meet those hydration goals throughout the day. This one is from the Pioneer Woman. She's got a website, Instagram, lots of fun mocktails there. But this one uses a sparkling water, a berry flavored one, as the base. We use a splash of pomegranate juice. So remember, when you're looking for those juices, look for one that has really simple ingredients or low amount of added sugar or no added sugar. And then we use a lot of like blackberries, raspberries, fresh ginger. We can use fresh or frozen berries, depending on how accessible those are to you. And really simple, just mashing the berries at the bottom of a glass, add the fresh ginger, splash of pomegranate juice, and fill the rest of the glass up with that sparkling water. These could be fun in, fun champagne glasses, kind of make it more festive that way as well. But this is something you can sip on all day long and stay hydrated. All right. And functional beverages. If you have been at the grocery store or online recently, you may have seen a lot of these new beverages that are offering, additional benefits other than just hydration. So, functional beverages are defined as drinks that provide beneficial effects on one or more functions on your body, basically by incorporating nutrients or bioactive compounds like antioxidants, vitamins, fiber to maybe enhance energy, enhance exercise performance, support stress, help you fall asleep, provide vitamins and minerals, or help with digestive health support. And the term functional is largely a marketing label. These claims are not regulated, and evidence for these benefits will vary based on product and ingredient. So, really be mindful when you see these claims and be skeptical of things that are claiming maybe a bit too much. Detox drinks, miracle claims, kind of think through that and think why. Why is this claiming that? And functional beverages and all of this, they can help support different health goals, but they're not meant to cure any disease or diagnosis. There are some beverages like hydration or electrolyte beverages, sports drinks, electrolyte infused waters that will replace fluids and minerals after sweating or an illness. And these are well supported for improving hydration and recovery. We've also got probiotic or fermented beverages like kefir, yogurt drinks, kombuchas, some of these fun sodas like Poppy, Olipop, sometimes these Bloom drinks. Suggest that they also have, gut health benefits as well, or something that can support gut microflora. And the effect of these depends on the strain and the amounts of them that you're consuming. So benefits are really dependent on strain and dose. And not all probiotic drinks are equally effective for any given condition. So, be mindful that these may help support that, but we're also going to probably have to make other dietary and health changes to really see, resolution of some of these goals or problems that we're trying to solve with them. Another example would be fortified vitamin beverages, calcium or vitamin D fortified plant milks, fortified juices, vitamin waters. These can help meet nutrient needs if your diet is lacking and can help meet those daily requirements if you're low, but it's not a substitute for a balanced diet. We're not going to meet all of your vitamin and mineral intakes through these fortified or enriched beverages. We still need a balanced diet with lots of whole foods, but these could definitely be a fun supplement or fun treat instead of water. And then we also have fiber-enriched beverages, such as this Olipop. These can help support digestion, satiety, or gut health, and help increase fiber intake, which a lot of us and Americans in general are very low in fiber intake. But they may have too much fiber. They have a lot of fiber in them. So check your tolerability and always check the label for added sugars to make sure that it's a good part of your diet. But these can also be, again, a fun way to kind of supplement fiber intake in addition to whole foods and a balanced diet. So just because a beverage has function does not always mean that it's the healthy choice. Plenty of functional beverages still pack a sugary punch. Some are even rivaling traditional sodas in terms of added sugar content. So look at those nutrition labels. You know, it's important as a consumer to don your detective hat and decipher the difference between your beverage choices. You know, take a look at that ingredient label. What ingredients are included? How much added sugar is there? You know, that splash of vitamin C or that hint of turmeric may sound appealing, but it doesn't cancel out the 30 plus grams of added sugar most of the time. All right. And I'm going to do one more look at some nutrition labels. We're heavy on the nutrition labels today. But I thought this would be interesting to, you know, really practice donning our detective hats here, and compare some different ginger ale, ginger-based drinks. The first one that we've got here is your standard, you know, Canada Dry ginger ale soda. And, you know, again, all of these serving sizes are going to be 1 can, so easy to compare against. This can of ginger ale contains 140 calories, and it's got 36 grams of total carbohydrates. This includes 36 grams of added sugar. If we look at the ingredient label here, we'll see that first ingredient is carbonated water, and the second ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. So it's got a lot of sugar. It doesn't have a lot of nutrition. It doesn't have any nutrition. We would refer to this as empty calories. So maybe it's something that we just drink in really small amounts or moderation, or that is, you know, kind of our sweet indulgence of the day. Again, it's not that we can never have ginger ale. There's always room for this. But maybe we just, yeah, think about how often you're having it now that you have a little bit more knowledge on these added sugars. Next up, we have Olipop Ginger Ale. We'll see that this has 50 calories per can, so it's lower than the Canada Dry. Still has some calories, but really, you know, it's a pretty reasonable amount for a sweet treat. And it has 17 total grams of carbohydrates. Within this, 9 grams of those carbohydrates are going to come from dietary fiber. So that's a really high amount of fiber. You'll see this contains about 32% of your daily value of fiber. So this could be a nice way to add some fiber into an otherwise, you know, fat fiber lacking day on the holidays when maybe we're not eating how we usually do. For some of us, that may be a little too much fiber if we're not used to it. So go slow, see how you do with that. Maybe start with half a can. And it also contains 5 grams of added sugar. And you'll see this nutrition label is a bit longer. So let's take a look at it. We've got carbonated water as the first ingredient. And that second ingredient is going to be this Ollie Smart blend. So that kind of goes until down here or so. And that is their blend of fiber. That's how they're getting all this fiber in this drink. So takes up a lot of space there, but just a different variety of fibers. So some of you will tolerate these really well. Others may be a little bit more sensitive to them, especially if your diet's lower in fiber. So try it out and see how you tolerate it. And then we see that it's got some lime juice, apple juice concentrate. It's got ginger juice. It's got a lot of, you know, juice concentrates. So that's where some of that, you know, naturally added sugar, natural occurring sugar is going to come from. We also see here that it's got cassava root syrup. So this is another word for sugar. So that's where I would guess about that 5 grams of added sugar is coming from the cassava root syrup. And then you'll also see down here we've got some stevia added. So this Olipop drink has a lot of different ways that is making it sweet. A lot of combinations of things from the fruit juice concentrates, from the cassava root syrup, and from the stevia itself. So, that can be really beneficial because we can, get a sweet drink without having too much added sugar at one time, which, can be really great in a lot of situations. So, again, see how you tolerate these. It is a big mixture of things. So some people may tolerate it better than others. And then the final one we have here is a sparkling water that is a lime ginger flavor. This is from Nixie. And you'll see here we've got 0 grams of total carbohydrates, 0 grams of total sugar, 0 grams of added sugar. The only ingredients here are going to be carbonated water, an organic lime flavor, organic ginger flavor. So this could be a really nice hydrating option that we are sipping on, all day long or using as a base in a lot of mocktails. And again, balance, there's room for everything, mix and match, but just be mindful of what else you're eating and consuming throughout the day as well. And for our final mocktail, I'm using that Olipop as the basis here, but we can also use one of those similar ginger-based options if you prefer. So this one includes 1 can of Olipop, half a cup of lime juice, two teaspoons of ginger, and 6 slices of cucumber. And this will serve two. So you would muddle the ginger, the cucumber, and the lime juice in a glass. Add mint and ice to the glass and top with Olipop ale or similar. Garnish with a lime peel and mint leaf, and you have kind of like a little mule mojito kind of fun holiday beverage that also contains a little bit of fiber, but you still get that sweet kind of treat as well. All right. So, kind of wrapping up today, we went over a lot of different options that we can use in the holidays. I know a lot of us are just trying to make it through. We're going to do another word cloud. I'll read it out again. But what will you be incorporating at your next holiday get together? You can go ahead and use that same QR code. Let's see. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, here we go. All right, I see using some more recipes, trying some mocktails, try some Olipop. Yeah, add some berries and fruit. Yes, reading labels. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you take something away from today, we want to really be on the lookout for those nutrition labels. Good. All right. Well, excellent. Let's see. All right. Well, I hope that you can use the knowledge today to help keep your celebrations fun and balanced, and keep an eye out for Nourish to Flourish 2026, resuming in March 2026. In the meantime, you can check out our previous webinars that you may have missed earlier in the year on YouTube through our Stanford Health Library. So thank you all for joining again, and I'm happy to take any questions now.
All right. Thank you so much, Kelsi. This was so festive and fun. And we definitely put on our investigator caps to look at all of the nutrition facts label. And I know I'll be adding the fun ginger mocktail to my holiday recipes. That is for sure. If you haven't put your questions in the chat box, feel free to do so now. There is a question, which I think would be great. Someone is asking, would you kindly go over the sugar slide again? And maybe if you're able to track back, we can just kind of talk a little bit more about that added sugar detail, which seems to be a hot topic in the chat box.
Yeah, yeah. So I know added sugar is really complicated, and it can hide in a lot of things, right? And we don't need to be afraid of it. It's okay to have some added sugar. Again, try to limit it to 50 grams, 25 to 50 grams or so a day, or talk to your dietitian, your doctor, your clinical care team to kind of see where your goals will be for added sugar. And really trying to, find the balance of foods that have added sugar and whole foods that are going to have more nutritional value, fiber, protein, all of that. Because when we eat foods that have more of the naturally occurring sugars, it's really going to help us feel more satiated and keep our blood sugar from spiking up really fast and crashing really fast. And just keeps our energy level feeling better. We're not going to get like the mid-afternoon slump that we may get by eating too much of the, added sugar at one time.
Yes, couldn't agree more, Kelsey, on that front. And there was a question that was asked when you're ordering a mocktail, maybe at a restaurant or you're attending a holiday event, how would you suggest asking for a lower sugar option or modification when you're not making it yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, and especially because they are so common at restaurants now and people are making them. Look at the description if you're in a restaurant and see, what are we adding to it? Are we adding juices? Is it using, is it a sparkling water base, a tea based? And maybe ask those questions. What kind of base are we using? Are you adding any sugar? Is there a way that I can, forego the added sugar if they're adding honey or agave or whatever they're adding? Maybe we can just ask them to lighten up the sweetness level. Same with at parties, also, not being afraid to bring sparkling water with you and maybe kind of cutting some of those more sugary mocktails or punches or, my family loves like the Hawaiian tiki drinks that tend to be real sugar bombs sometimes with all those juices. So water it down with a little bit of sparkling water or even plain water if you've got that.
Great suggestions, Kelsey. And last question to kind of wrap up. When it comes to alcohol-free, maybe canned cocktails you find at the grocery store, are there any brands that you like or things that someone should be looking for on the label specifically?
Yeah. I think it depends on what your goal is with these non-alcoholic beverages. There are so many options now. I've seen a lot of beers, a lot of wines that are, non-alcoholic and also mixed cocktails. If the goal is for you to have the taste of beer or wine without having the alcohol, then look for a brand that you like. I know there are Athletic Brewing, Best Day. Those are some popular like non-alcoholic beers, tons of non-alcoholic wines, but I can't remember any of the brand names. But if that's what you're going for, just the taste without the alcohol, then go for that and just have it in moderation. If you're looking for, yeah, the mocktails that are maybe more cocktail based, look at those nutrition labels if they have it, or if they're advertising like the amount of sugar. Oftentimes, if they are low in sugar, they will definitely, put that on the label, or want to let you know about that. So yeah, be on the lookout. If you're not finding it on the product itself, do a quick Google search as well. As I was or presenting the slide and kind of getting everything together, I was going through all of the grocery store, apps, trying to look at these nutrition labels, and a lot of them are there if you do go looking for them.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much to Kelsey. This was festive, and I know we all are probably feeling very inspired to try fun new mocktails and read those labels and make sure that we're keeping a balanced approach to sugar this holiday season. Thank you all for joining us. And as a reminder, today's recording will be posted on the Stanford Health Library website under Lifestyle and Weight Management Recorded Lectures. You'll also receive an email with the recording link. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season and stay tuned for more details about our 2026 Nourish to Flourish webinar series and happy holidays. Take care, everyone.